Hello, indie spooks lovers. Literary Rose here with I Dream of Indie to talk to you about the Switch port for Rogue Lords. Rogue Lords is a single-player roguelike RPG developed by Leikir Studio and Cyanide Studio and published by Nacon. This game was originally released for the PC in 2021, but for my review I will be covering the Switch port. You play the literal devil, who 10 years ago lost his influence and power over humanity thanks to the efforts of Van Helsing. Now the devil is back with a vengeance, but he needs to reclaim powerful relics that were lost from him and strengthen his influence on the people before facing Van Helsing with the help of his disciples. Your disciples include Dracula, Frankenstein and his monster, Bloody Mary, the Headless Horseman, to name a few. You also must contend with a new religion called Sanctua Lumen, which you learn with each chapter and encounters is not so holy and righteous as they present themselves to be. The disciples are whom you will be controlling in both combat and events. They have unique dialogue that maintains a spooky, playful edge. Sometimes a bit too playful, in my opinion, but overall delightful to listen to. In terms of difficulty and gameplay, similar titles that first came to mind are Darkest Dungeon, specifically in the dark fantasy themes and grueling combat, and Slay the Spire when looking at the map design. The element of randomness or RNG that springs from both of these titles also comes into Rogue Lords and in my opinion keeps every run fresh and exciting. This game does have blood, violence, and overall dark themes that range from silly to a bit serious. While I would continue to argue that Rogue Lords remains firmly in the sillier side, there are plenty of encounters that do not shy away from the darkness of your characters and overall goal. You want to incite chaos, fear, and control over humanity, and destroy anyone who gets in that way. Let's talk about the gameplay. You control a team of 3 disciples, with your first starting characters being Dracula, the Headless Horseman, and Bloody Mary. Later on, you unlock more disciples to use in combat, although they all have particular roles they are best at. Some characters are best as a sort of tank, others as more as DPS, so as you pick your team for your next run, you do need to think carefully about the balance they bring when you put your disciples together. The combat is turn-based with 5 AP, or action points, at your disposal during each turn. The disciples' skills cost varying amounts of AP, so you must think wisely for each turn about what move is necessary next. Should you set up a buff, go in for an attack, taunt the enemies to protect your other disciples? It all depends. You can also see enemy buffs and intent for each turn, allowing you to plan the best course of action. This is especially important during elite combat encounters, which do provide a formidable challenge. But don't use your skills all willy-nilly. They have cooldowns, and they need to be reset after each use, which your characters can do, but at an AP cost. Dracula comes in clutch for these moments, since he has a skill that allows him to reset his entire team's skills in one fell swoop, versus manually using up AP for each disciple. You have 2 ways of dispatching foes. You can bring their health meter or their spirituality meter down to 0. Your disciples have and unlock different skills that focus on attacking enemy health, spirituality, or both. To name a few, since you also have skills to reduce incoming attacks, heal HP, heal SP, add dodge. I could go on for a while here, but I'll save you the trouble. But even after you've brought their health or spirituality meter down to 0, it's not over. You need to land one more final blow to completely eliminate the enemy. Otherwise, they stay in a vulnerable state and can even be healed back up if you don't get to them in time. Luckily, your disciples also need an extra blow to knock them out after hitting the vulnerable state. And even after that, if your disciple was to be killed, the hit points taken would instead be redirected to your devil essence, a separate meter of power from the devil himself. So if you have 30 devil essence, as all runs start with, and your disciple is in a vulnerable state and is hit for 15 points, they would remain in battle as vulnerable, and your essence would go down from 30 to 15. However, if that essence hits 0, it's all over. I would personally argue that if you are losing devil essence during battle just to keep your disciples alive, especially early on, your run is probably approaching its end. After completing an event or combat, you're rewarded with souls, the currency of the game, skills, or an increase in your terror level. More on that later. Depending on the encounter, you may be offered to choose between 3 different rewards: Other times, you only have one option or disguised options, so it's not completely clear at first what you will get. This may sound like a lot, and you may be taking breaths just listening to this, and it was definitely intimidating when I first began playing. But if you slow down and look through your options carefully, these features become intuitive and offer a surprising, chess-like strategy gameplay experience. As you go through encounters, combat and otherwise, you can gain relics that offer boosts or rewards for particular actions. For instance, you can get a relic that lets you gain souls if you visit the River Styx, or another relic, which I love, that automatically has Bloody Mary's mirror set up at the start of combat on a random enemy. There are an astounding number of relics. The final major note I want to touch upon for combat is Devil Mode, in which you literally cheat during battles, as well as outside battles. You have Devil Essence, which I mentioned earlier, that can increase or decrease during your run depending on your choices, and that essence can be used to cheat in almost every element of the game. Is your disciple low on health or vulnerable in combat? Activate Devil Mode. Move their health meter up to whatever you want, max it out even. Return to combat. Don't like that defense buff on the Exorcist enemy? Take it out and put it on one of your disciples. This feature was so neat and surprising, and really brought a fresh kind of gameplay style that I haven't encountered before. Or, if you are in an event where you have different choices on how to deal with the situation, such as, do you scare the charlatan goods seller or kill him? Do you possess the bodies of the recently dead or kill them? You can use your Devil Mode essence to increase your odds at succeeding. Did I mention that there are events? Okay, let's get into that. So these different events or encounters offer a variety of rewards or punishments if you're unlucky. The first kind of event I'll talk about are the social tests, usually having to do with humans or some kind of relic or artifact in the world. These events can range from disrupting a Sanctua Lumen meeting, pilfering a dead body for goods, persuading humans to join your cause. Passing these social tests depends on your chosen disciple's traits. You choose one disciple for each event, and each one has the opportunity to leave the event with an increase to their traits, which the game lets you know in advance before you decide which disciple to send to the social test. For instance, you can increase max health, max spirituality, physical damage, spiritual damage, your occultism trait, your ruse traits. There is a lot you can expand on. Each disciple has pre-existing strengths in certain traits, so you might opt to use one particular disciple versus another because they have an inherent higher percentage chance of succeeding the social test without having to use your devil essence to cheat. Or, if you really want to level up a particular stat on one of your disciples, but they aren't too skilled at that particular social test, then you definitely want to use your devil essence to cheat and help boost that disciple up. That's the social test events. But there's more. You can visit the River Styx to replenish your devil's essence, or remove negative traits from your disciples, which you may have gained from failing events, or your characters just being dicks to one another. Finally, you can also visit the Green Reaper to trade souls. You can use these souls to buy skills, upgrade your skills, or buy relics. Your skills are upgraded by either leaving a particular one with the Grim Reaper for 20 souls and getting the improved version the next time you encounter him on the map, or buying more of the same skill. Once you have 3 of a skill, it will automatically combine the 3 into a new, upgraded, more powerful version. You can upgrade all of your skills twice to reach their maximum potential. Alright, I think I covered all of the gameplay, but forgive me if I missed a detail here or there. As you can probably tell, this game is rich in features. Let's talk about the map. Rogue Lord's map is reminiscent of Slay the Spire. You have several winding paths to choose from, which can intersect as you travel, so you can switch things up as necessary. These changes are needed when humanity decides to rise up, which are random events thrown onto certain encounters on the map that come with a debuff or punishment of some sort. You can sometimes choose to avoid these encounters if you plan ahead and make sure to look back at your map frequently, but you might also decide to go through with it because you really need to get to that event. But of course, there's another option: cheat. Open portals on the map and skip pesky areas where humanity might have made a combat encounter more difficult, or perhaps cause your disciple to gain a negative trait. This is actually a feature I completely forgot about until writing this review, so don't be like me. Open those portals. In my opinion, I'm not sure I like the map. specifically the 3D implementation of it. You have a static minimap on the right-hand corner of the screen, but your actual movement through the area is in a 3D perspective. You control one of your disciples' models on a fairly nice atmospheric map, move them down the routes you choose, and then up to the events that you interact with. It was cute, but I would say not necessary. It often felt a bit slow, as I had to wait for my character to march on over to a town before I could begin an event or a combat. And the lag on the Switch also didn't help. I had to full-on stop before a new area so the Switch had time to populate all the elements on the screen, which typically remain in a mist. This was a small nuisance at first, but after losing and just wanting to jump back into a run, manually walking up to events definitely wore me down. I want to circle back now to a feature I mentioned at the start of this review, terror levels. This is exactly what it sounds like. The level of terror that is currently inflicted on the land. This increases through your choices in events, although it is preferable to focus on this earlier because increased terror comes with increased rewards. The more terror, the more favorable random bonuses populate events on the map. In addition, you increase your chances of getting relics, which are absolutely essential in the late game experience. It can be easy to skip the terror level rewards for battles or events. It's always so tempting to click on, oh yes, give me 2 more skills. But while they are less glamorous than new skills or souls to buy things, in the long term I would say that they are the right choice. If it wasn't clear from the novella-length explanation I have offered of the game so far, which to be honest has been on the light side, this game is challenging. But the challenge is in thinking. You must think to win at this game. You cannot brute force your way. Trust me, I already tried. But once you realize how this game needs to be played, you can truly begin to have fun in strategizing and making sudden changes when the RNG element throws a wrench in your plans. It does not take a genius to play this game, just patience. If that's not up your alley, then this game isn't for you. But it would not be fair to say that this game is too hard or the battles take too long. If you'd like to have fun with this title, don't fight the current. Slow down and strategize. But I must say, the Switch port needs work. It's laggy, it's janky, which is not the end of the world, but it's annoying enough that it makes it harder to return to despite the addictive and satisfying gameplay. For a player with less patience than myself, this lag alone might be enough to understandably turn them off to the title. I would encourage you to play this game, even if the Switch is your only option, but with the knowledge that the lag is real. And I also recommend you wait before making choices in case you accidentally double tap and choose something you didn't mean to. Cough cough, definitely didn't happen to me, cough cough. For accessibility, there aren't many options. Fairly standard. You can turn off screen shake, you can turn on and off the tooltips, and you can change the volumes. The visuals are well done in their distinct style, which to me was like an interesting mix between Tim Burton and Darkest Dungeon, with a little bit of a classic fairy tales twist in the diction and dark choices. The art for your disciples switches from 2D hand-drawn portrayals during events to fully fleshed 3D models during combat or on the map, with flares of style with their unique movesets. This can be a hard line to straddle, maintaining tonal and stylistic consistency across different art modes, but Rogue Lords achieves this flawlessly. There is much for your eyes to delight upon with both portrayals of the characters. Your perspective shifts from 3D third-person map exploration to 2D point-and-click choice events to 2D map battles with 3D models on them, and the animations are just so smooth and lovely. It is an information-heavy title, and I have to say, it was definitely hard to read on the Switch, even more so when I tried it on handheld. Don't do that. Too much eye strain. Protect your eyeballs. In general, I think the text boxes and info dump could have been balanced a little bit more against the visuals. Also, I would argue they could have selected more appropriate and interesting font for the events and smaller bits of dialogue. It stood out to me, especially when everything else with this game is so on point with that dark fantasy genre. I am not an expert on sound, and all I can offer, it was good. Expected. Nothing I'll listen to on my own time after the game, but I don't think it was meant to do that. It fits the mood and the theme of the game perfectly, to a T. There's quite a deal of voice acting in this game, with the devil narrating your movements and choices, as well as the story chapter sections. The voice acting is well done, but I found it a bit inconsistent in tone at times. Sometimes it was serious and dark, sometimes it was funny, so it felt a bit confusing for me in terms of remaining with a steady style. Also, I cannot take the devil seriously when he talks about bending humanity to his yoke. Kudos on the diction, but yoke just sounds so funny when this intimidating devil voice says it. What are my conclusions? Get the game on the PC if you can. But if you have a little patience and don't mind a touch of lag, and you don't have a PC that can run it, then the Switch port for Rogue Lords might be worthwhile. I personally still wanted to play despite having these issues, which I think speaks volumes of the game.
My power is absolute. I must fall back.
Our content here at I Dream of Indie is only possible thanks to our brave indie warriors and legends that support us through channel memberships. Thank you to Indie Warriors Bill, Christian Cruz, Adriana Amato, CJR, PSC, Julian Colbus, Jesse, Ray Lynn, Marky Mint, Dave Harp, Peekaboo, Lex Noyle, and King of the Hatch. And those brave indie legends are Jen Rose, Larkison, Mitchell Hall, Peach, Skepticism, Seacoil, Nathan Moore, Chris Jackson, Mr. W, Blue Francis 14, The Beefarinis, Business Cody, and Carmen Red. Thank you so much for all that you do for independent developers, publishers, and for I Dream of Indie. Everybody else, head down to the description box below. Let's defeat the gaming echo chamber and bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming.